CZE. Hello, my name is Cemile Zeynep Eryılmaz. Recently, I went to London and Edinburgh for work, so I had a chance to go to contemporary art exhibitions, museums and galleries. I will talk about an exhibition I saw in the Fruit Market Gallery, Edinburgh. British artist Mike Nelson's exhibition Humpty Dumpty. There are two enormous installations in the exhibition. One of them is called Mardin Earthworks and consists of photographs taken in a city, Mardin, in eastern Turkey. The other one includes photographs taken in Highgate Flats, London. What connects these photographs is the destruction and urban development plans that completely erases the experiences and history of the inhabitants. Mike Nelson documents the transformation of both spaces. The photographs are connected to a major absorbing installation formed of the interiors and some artifacts from two of those Highgate flats. In amongst the debris and objects are food containers and items with Turkish writing on. There is also a printer in one of the rooms where all the photographs in the exhibition are printed on. The wrecked installation creates a haunted and somber space. However, it merely creates a dull representation of somewhere far away with Turkish writing on a soap or a political map of Turkey. I spent almost an hour in the exhibition and I was the only visitor who looked at the photographs. Let me be clear, they were boring. It is unacceptable that a city like Mardin is reduced to construction waste. In the exhibition, Mardin is explained as a hilltop city in the predominantly Kurdish region of southeast Turkey, although historically it has had and still continues today to have a diverse population of Arabs, Jews and Christians as well as Kurds and Turks. In the interview about Mardin photographs, the artist mentions that until 90s, the state and Kurdish terror organization had fights in the region. Then, in 2011, the camps of Syrian refugees began to gather along the border. I can't tell you the complex and layered history and culture of southern eastern Turkey in this video. What I can assure you of is that Mardin is definitely more than terror and refugees, more than redevelopment, huge excavations and reconstruction work. I'm sorry, Mike, but the redevelopment doesn't connect a region in London and an entire city in Turkey. Highgate was demolished in 2014 as part of a regeneration project to create shops, public spaces and new homes. It's another urban development project. Do you know why Mardin was undergoing an unprecedented amount of development? Because the southeastern region is chronically neglected by the state since the establishment of Turkish Republic in 1923. Not only neglected, but in control of wealthy and feudalistic families who own land and have authority over religion, politics and the labor force. Then there is the link between government and construction companies in Turkey regarding urban development projects. Not long after Nelson took photos in Mardin, one of the biggest civil resistance movements and a wave of demonstrations against the government and urban development plans began. I just said that I can't really get into the history of the region. I must open a parenthesis when I talk about reconstruction in Mardin, even on YouTube. Talking about Mardin through the lens of visual arts demands more than just photos of trenches, piles and constructions. Do you know what is the name of this installation? A transient history of Mardin earthworks. Earthworks! Nelson explains earthworks. I renamed earthworks after the title borrowed by the land artist Robert Smithson from the science fiction writer Brian Aldiss. You named a work in Mardin, a city that reflects non-Western histories and cultures, after a British land artist that plays with dirt and rocks. I'm not trying to be offensive. I think Robert Smithson's work in British and American landscapes is great. He's a leading figure in the land art movement, along with the other Western artists such as Carl Andre and Nancy Holt. This movement is known for its abstractness and apoliticism. So no, Mike, Mardin and Highgate is not similar and Mardin photographs cannot be named after another Western white male artist. The name of the exhibition, Humpty Dumpty, is ignorant and ill-fitting. It's a reference made by Robert Smithson and a short story by Jorge Luis Borges. Again, why? This is reminiscent of an art research proposal I wrote while studying for my Master of Research at Central St. Martin's. I was conducting research on Ilya and Emilia Kabakov using the postmodernist philosopher Jean-François Lyotard's classic text, Postmodernist Condition. Ilya and Emilia Kabakov's exhibitions were undeniably large in scale, much like Mike Nelson's. In the show I wrote about, 10 installations are exhibited in the two halls of the gallery. These halls have been transformed into kommunalkas, which are communal houses in Soviet Russia. Each installation presents a fictional narrative set in the confines of the communal apartments. The viewers enter the exhibition through a single door and are invited to visit the separate rooms running along both sides of a corridor. Each room is full of objects that reflect the unique and extraordinary ideas of the person who lives there. Each resident's story is represented as a text, complete with eyewitness testimonies from other residents and news reports. Do you see the problem here? In the installations, Kommunalka's physical presence demands a discussion of the system of communal houses and the notion of communality and privacy. It is impossible to discuss the artworks without considering the realities of communal living and surveillance in Soviet Russia. Postmodernism is a Western concept, representing the knowledge that came after Western modernism. However, it is clear that Russian reality cannot be explained with this framework. The narrative is fractured, just like what Lyotard says about postmodernist narrative. It was unreliable, just like postmodern narrative. The impossible actions, such as flying into space from the apartment, were discussed using scientific language. However, these similarities are not enough. Trying to explain a uniquely Soviet experience with Western concepts is like forcing the pieces of the puzzle that don't fit. That's exactly what Mike Nielsen was trying to do, forcing the pieces of the puzzle that don't fit. What would he know about Mardin anyway? Why would a white British man is entitled to do anything related to this city in the periphery? It was because of the invitation from the 2012 Mardin Biennial. He stayed in the city for a week. A week! Years of history and culture is squeezed into an art form that is digestible by Western art press. Biennials are the most popular institutional structures for staging large-scale exhibitions. The Biennial is an international festival of contemporary art that occurs once every 2 years. International means that artists come from all corners of the world, but primarily from North America and Europe. Mardin Biennial asks European and American artists to participate, so that the biennial can be covered by Hyperallergic or the art newspaper, so that the biennial can be truly international. Today, there are an estimated 100 to 200 biennials, and many contribute to marketing cities or strengthening the tourist industry. Smaller towns and those on the edge of larger cities use biennials to draw attention to themselves. The advantage of the biennial format is that it is where the lure of the local meets the glamour of the global. Biennials in peripheral cities are based on the struggles around the legitimacy and status of non-Western art. They demand a new history of art. I'm talking about São Paulo Biennial, the Havana Biennial, and Johannesburg Biennial. However, it is becoming increasingly difficult to seriously refer to some of the more recently founded biennials as a resistance against Western art. The Mardin Biennial does not favor local and national artistic production over that of the West. In its 6th edition, created by Ali Akay in 2024, Mardin Biennial refused to include any local artists. Its exhibitions feature primarily Istanbul-based and international artists. Kurdish and Arabic were absent from the biennial's exhibition panels and public outreach, despite the fact that they are widely spoken in the region. The attitude towards local artists and culture is clear. The world outside the West has little to offer. The interesting artists all live in the West, either in the west of the world or west of Turkey. The problem with the Mardin Biennial is reflected in an event that occurred at the after party of the opening show. DJ Asena Hayal stated that her set was cut short due to a biennial corporate sponsor objecting to her playing Kurdish and Arabic music. DJ asked why she was removed from the stage. The woman from the PR brand that organized the after party was clear. We brought a DJ from Istanbul so that this kind of music music wouldn't be played. DJ states that encountering such a thing in Mardin is utterly absurd. You have no idea where you are. While I was talking to the woman, she looked at me with disgust, wrinkling her face and wiping it with her hand. When I asked her why she was doing that, she said, "You are spitting in my face while you talk." This is how Biennial sees the people who live there. They saw me as a local DJ and acted as if to say, "We brought music from Istanbul. I played the music of that region. It was the sound of that region." She looked at that culture with disgust. The people of Mardin need art and music because they don't know anything about them. It is imperative that someone from Istanbul go and teach them. We are fighting against a force here. Let me be clear. It's not them who are really hurting us. It is those who are closer to us, those who appear to be on our side, and their condescending white gaze. There is a huge problem on that side, and we never talk about it. I'm aware of the attitude towards geography that is being projected onto me. I'm not personalizing this. This is a political issue. This issue must be addressed. How to address this issue? If the creator was not Turkish, there would be a clear display of curiosity towards local artists, as there was in the previous editions of the Biennial. How to address the state of local cultures and languages within Turkey? In Black Skin, White Masks, Frantz Fanon made a foundational statement about language. To know a language, to speak it, above all, to assume a culture, to support the weight of a civilization. The Negro of Antilles will be proportionally whiter, that is, he will come closer to being a real human being in direct ratio to his mastery of the French language. It is clear for Fanon that the colonized people are the ones suffering from an inferiority complex. This complex has been created by the deliberate burial of its local cultural originality. It is clear that the colonized bury their local culture, language and arts and adopt those of the civilizing nation. The colonized is elevated above her jungle status when she adopts the cultural standards of the civilized country. This is why the woman looked disgusted and wrinkled her face at the locals in Mardin. She feels entitled to look down on those that are further away from the Western center. Turkey has never been colonized, but modernization has led to a defeat in the face of Western values, technology and progress. Modernization meant that of local originality. Like the colonized person that Fanon argues, the Turkish artist, creator and the biennial become whiter as they renounce their blackness, their jungle. This inferiority complex of the colonized subject intensifies among the most educated, who must struggle with it unceasingly. Their way of doing so is frequently naive. The wearing of European clothes, whether rags or the most up-to-date style, using European forms of social intercourse, adorning the native language with European expressions, using complicated phrases in speaking or writing a European language, all these contribute to a feeling of equality with the European and his achievements. It is clear that the problem lies not in Mike Nelson's superficial connections between London and Mardin. The contemporary Turkish art scene invited a British artist to Mardin for a week and expected him to create a meaningful artwork. The problem is the colonized mind. It is disgusted by the sound, language, culture and smell of the local. I hope I never see something like this again.